We have come to the Carlsbad structure plans for white, pawn structure plan for white, part 5, where white throws caution to the winds and castle queenside, leading to an all-out battle where it will take place sharply on the king side, the queen side, and in the center. And it's a very demanding kind of chess. So let's get into it. With a game by E.Vladimirov versus Paul van der Sterren. And Paul van der Sterren is an interesting player for black because when he was an active player, he was one of the biggest experts on the Queen's Gambit declined. So whatever he does should be interesting because he knew his stuff very well. In this time he messes up. He's playing against Vladimirov, who was an expert on this line. D4, we will have a completely normal exchange variation of the Queen's Gambit declined. And all these moves are very normal. Bishop d3, c6, and here Vladimirov already go knight e2. This is his system. We have earlier in part 2 we looked at plans for white with f3 and e4, which is often a part of the plan with knight e2. But white can also castle queenside, and he can also choose a completely different plan where he actually also may do like in part 1 with the minority attack. And one thing we should notice with the knight here is it can jump here, and this can be a bit annoying for black. But I think somehow the knight here with the option of going here, and maybe like in the Pillsbury attack, which we looked at in video part number 3 on the Carlsbad pawn structure. Knight bd7, queen c2, rook e8, and here comes castle queenside. Okay, what's going on? Suddenly the position completely changed because white does not want to play a minority attack now. He will like to attack on the king side. We notice that we have this usual battery here that is an annoyance. There's also, like we noticed, this plan, which is interesting, and sometimes when white castles queenside, it's with the pawn coming here, but often it will be with something like this. And I should probably make them red so we notice that they are messing up all the arrows like this. And black, on the other hand, would love to push this pawn far, this pawn far, and even open here. The problem with the c pawn is that if he moves it, he gives away the square b5, and this pawn might become weak. White will very often have to castle, move the king very fast. The king cannot stay in the c file for a long time. It is not safe in the c file. The game will give some sort of we'll see. It's just this is a normal move again. Black is covering here and making room for this bishop to maybe go out. It could go to e6 or it could go g4, and it controls f5 and so on. And overprotects h7. Both sides will have to make some sort of combination of attack and defense. It will be an all-out struggle where it's not clear if you should play a safety move or you should attack. And this clearly favors the strong players. And in general, when white castle queenside in the Queen's Gambit, the best player will win. So if you are playing against a weaker player, but okay, it's not without risk for white to play this way, but it is very demanding positions, and the best player will usually win. First of all, white is starting here with h3, taking away this square and getting ready for g4. A5. This is also a normal move. White wants to attack on the king side, and black wants to attack on the queen side. In general, it's not really clear who's fastest. Usually black will land a little bit before white, but he will then lack enough resources to do some serious harm and will need to bring up more pieces. And white will also have to take some time out to get his pieces in order. D4. One move black can play here is sacrifice the pawn with A4. It's apparently not completely correct, as the latest, I think, rumors about this line. This, by the way, this game is from 1990, so it is an old game, and I think that this line is not played so much by white anymore because it's too dangerous. Black does look very threatening here on the queen side. King b1, like we said before, it's an important move. It has to be played. You have to get the queen and the king out of the c-file at some point because something will happen there eventually. A4. Now the pawn is covered, and black is getting close to something. And here comes maybe a surprising move, knight g3, moving the knight away from the queen side, and getting ready to move this knight here before b4. If b4, white will have to take the pawn, and I don't think black will get enough compensation for it. Actually, the knight on a4 will help to seal the queen side. A5, getting ready for b4 and moving it before, because the problem is if b4 comes with tempo, then b3 also comes with tempo, and white is desperate to avoid opening lines. After b4, white definitely will move this queen so he can meet a3. If there comes, we'll see here, a3, you meet with b3, and b3, you meet with a3. So not to open more lines on the queen side is absolutely important. And as we see, white is not threatening anything yet, and black is already almost landing with his attack, but it's not that dangerous until he gets more pieces going with it. And white here take the pawn. This is actually theory, and the pawn sacrifice also theory, and all this is known. Bishop d7, and as we see, the c-file is now open. And important thing to notice is this square is still important. It's almost always important in the Queen's Gambit decline exchange variation. So please notice this square, be aware of it. It's not important. And here, white only have one move that makes any kind of sense, and that is to go all the way back, because otherwise he'll be hit by a pawn. Queen c2, b3 is already more or less over for white. His king will not be safe ever again. Queen c1. So as I said before, a3 meets b3, b3 meets with a3. Okay, bishop e6. Also a normal move, hitting the bishop, getting the knight out, and there's no longer a problem here. And he he had to take because rook was coming, and knight e4 was coming, and the bishop was hanging, and queen d2, getting out of the c-file sooner or later. And here black makes a huge mistake. He completely misunderstands the position somehow. Or overestimate his attack, or I don't know, get nervous, I don't know what. Anyway, the correct move for black here is maybe knight rook c8, but another move is something like this, and black definitely have great compensation. There are squares here and here, there are bishops, and this king is not completely safe here. And black also has the bishop pair. So I would say after knight d5, black has definitely compensation for it. But he plays d6, and this was a mistake because it gives white time to, it's a big mistake, because after this, first of all, this square is no longer available. Second of all, this pawn is coming, and white will also have an attack and a pawn. At the moment, he just have a pawn, but if he also gets an attack, then it's almost too much. And g5. And As we see that it's already clear that black's attack has sort of led to a standstill. This formation of pieces is rather solid. So it was g6 was a really big mistake. And white is playing f4. It has nothing to do with the Pillsbury attack here. Is simply, since this pawn is not weak, it makes sense to push this pawn forward here where you have the majority. And he's already getting out of here, and f5 and bishop b5, and now something starts to threaten maybe this move or this move, and definitely something is going on here. So what do white need to do here? Well, when you're ahead on material, you exchange pieces, of course. Black does have the bishop pair, but if the position is not open enough for them to start working properly, it will not result in anything. Bishop b5, f6. So, boxing the king in here. h5, rook a7, knight f4. And as we see that it's actually more or less white that's attacking here, because this is probably threatening. Rook d8. Take, take, take. See, and here comes, boom, opening the h file. This Vladimirov guy, he was actually, I don't think he's playing so much more. He's more like a trainer. He was I think he was the coach for, he was a second for Kasparov, and I'm not sure he got caught cheating, but he was definitely fired by Kasparov and accused of cheating. And I'm not sure it was correct. I don't know what the story is, but it was, of course, not very nice for Vladimirov. And I think he has coached a lot of Indian players and people in Asia in general. He was a very strong player when he was at the top. Here comes attacking and luring the bishop down, trying to get out. f7, and there's something coming in the f file. Rook f6 after bishop takes f7 is extremely annoying. Don't know what to do about rook f1. So and bishop takes, rook takes, queen takes g6, picks up. So let's just see it. This here will pick up this guy. And of course the king here is not good. f7 was a really nice interference. Bishop takes, rook f1 is also a really big problem because of here. So basically black is dead here, and his king gets squashed around, and he didn't get any attack actually. And rest is more or less, well, painful for black. This pawn might be coming. b5, and here you can just finish it. Boom, because of the pin. Oops. Sometimes. King c7, queen e7, king b6, queen f8. There's no check. There's just a monster pawn here, and pieces over here just huddled in the corner. So, what to take away? What to take away from this? It leads to, when white castle queenside, it leads to very, very fascinating, tense fights all over the board. We saw that both sides were playing on more or less both sides of the board, having to look at both the center and the queen side and the king side, and sort of combining attack and defense. So very demanding, very difficult positions. And of course, we are playing for 3 results here. It's not, if you castle queenside, you cannot expect not to get mated at least once in a while with white. So this will definitely happen if you choose it. But it is very fascinating, and if black is not prepared for this kind of fight, it can be a great weapon for white. This concludes our series on white's plan. Next up, we will have black's plan in the Carlsbad pawn structure. And feel free to use the examples or the videos as study material or as teaching materials if you have students who could benefit from this. It is meant to be shared out there, and I hope you enjoy this series and found it interesting. Of course, this is not all aspects of castling queenside, for instance, is not covered by this video alone. White has other plans. You can also have the knight on f3. There are many nuances. It's just to give a broad idea of the play. Especially in the minority attack, there are millions of things that can go right and wrong. We will look at especially black plans in the minority attack in the coming videos, where black has no less than 8 different plans. Anyway, thank you for watching GM Talks. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, you remember to subscribe. Thank you.